Hey folks, Randy Newberg here with another episode of Leopold's Hunt Talk Radio. This one's going to be a fun one. It's one we've never done before. It's going to require a little bit of transition here to go from the introduction to the actual live podcast session. What it is we are doing a podcast from the headquarters of Kenetrek Boots. All of you know I'm a huge fan of Kenetrek Boots, have been, I bought my first pair of Kenetrek boots 1 year after they started business. I've been wearing them ever since. But they've invited me and my podcast kit to come out to their headquarters and do a live question and answer podcast. And with me on this will be Jim Windjam, the founder and president of Kenetrek Boots, and John Barclow, who is the big game product manager at Sitka Gear. I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I hope it turns out good. When you go live like this, you run a really high risk of maybe making a fool of yourself. So there's a very good chance you're going to hear us say something that we wish we could take back. But before we do that, I want to get into the important parts of who makes this podcast possible. But even before I do that, the big news for us, and this is really big news for all of our platforms, is those of you who have Amazon Prime, you know that Amazon, I think it's called Amazon Video Direct or Direct Video, is something that Amazon Prime subscribers get for free. It took 9 months to pull it off, but Matthew, who you've heard on our podcast here before, has finally been able to get us through the firewall at Amazon. And right now you can watch seasons 4 and seasons 5 of Fresh Tracks in their entirety, all the episodes of those 2 seasons for free if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber. So go to your Amazon Prime account and type in Randy Newberg or Hunting or Fresh Tracks and watch us. Watching us on Amazon and leaving positive comments helps us immensely. This is new space. We are probably the only current popular TV show that has got through the Amazon firewall. So we're hoping that all of you listening, one, will go and watch for your own benefit of seeing it there. And two, you'll do it because you're wanting to help support this public land self-guided platform to have even wider reach and exposure than it currently has. So again, if you go to Amazon Prime, Fresh Tracks seasons 4 and 5 are out there for you to watch for free. That said, want to thank Leopold for being the title sponsor of this podcast, all the great support they give us in everything we do. Can't even imagine where this public land self-guided hunting platform would be without the great folks at Leopold, but I can assure you it probably would have not got off the ground. Orion coolers, we are in the middle of hunting season right now, and we've been living out of these Orion coolers. They are unbelievable coolers. They are the best coolers out there. Right now, if you use promo code RANDY when you go out to orioncoolers.com and buy a cooler, you're going to get this really cool tumbler that they've made just for our customers that we send them. So Orion coolers, can't say enough good about them, especially when I need a cold meal, a cold drink, a cold snack, whatever, when I'm out hunting. I open that lid, I'm like, oh man, I'm so glad I have these coolers. So great coolers. I know if you buy one, you will appreciate every bit of it as much as I do. onX Maps, I think about the 3 hunts we've already done this season. And if it wasn't for our onX Maps apps, we're really getting heavy into the apps now. I used to be one of these chip guys, but they've got me converted. I'd say I'm 85, 90% converted over to the app system on my smartphone. And right now, if you go to onxmaps.com, they're going by onX as their new brand name. But if you go to onX and sign up for their Hunt app and buy some of their app products for your smartphone or your desktop, use promo code RANDY and you're going to get 20% off. Great company, great product, going to make your hunts more successful than they already are. And then last, but as you know, certainly not least, based on how much benefit we get from this service, it's the Go Hunt Insider. They have right now a 30-day free trial going on. And if you are interested, you can get this 30-day free trial by going to gohunt.com/Randy. So you don't need a promo code or anything right now for the free trial. So gohunt.com/Randy. You're going to get to see everything. The covers are being rolled back. You're going to get to see the best drawing odds out there, by far the best. No one's even close. You can do all the unit research you might ever want to. You'll get all the insider articles. You'll get everything you could possibly want that I use, that we do our research with, all of our application strategies, everything else. gohunt.com/Randy, and you're going to get a 30-day free trial. And with that, we're about ready to turn on the mic live here at the Kenetrek headquarters, where Jim and John and me, we're going to do our best to answer a whole bunch of questions that the audience has. Tune in. I hope this one turns out to be as much fun as it looks like it will be. All right, folks.
I thought that was a given.
Yeah, I thought everyone knew who John was.
Yeah.
But anyhow, folks, you're going to hear me say some things, and it's kind of for the benefit of the people who are going to hear this on YouTube or on iTunes or Stitcher. But is this the galactic headquarters, Jim, of Kenetrek?
It's just the headquarters.
Just the headquarters?
No.
Okay.
We're pretty much just relegated to North America, not even international at
Really?
this point.
Okay. So when you're the president of Kenetrek, you don't have to wear the headphones like everybody else. Is that kind of the deal?
I'm sorry.
You see that?
Can't believe him.
I'm like, why can't we hear this guy? The audio guy's over there saying, turn it up, turn it up.
Get the hook.
Yeah. Wow. Anyhow, we're at the North American headquarters.
That's correct.
The
Headquarters.
All right. We'll just go with headquarters. And I'm not sure if everyone else is impressed as I am, but this is like cool. This is as cool as it gets. I mean, not that I've ever drawn 2 sheep tags in 1 year like Jim has.
Yeah.
But for those of you listening, we are at the Kenetrek headquarters here in Bozeman, Montana. And beside me, to my left, the audience says it looks funny that we're all sitting on the couch together. They aren't able to see this. Can you imagine what kind of image I just painted for them right now? This is, I'm sorry, Jim. In all of our sponsorship relationships, we tell people our job is to destroy your business within the first year.
You're doing good.
Okay. We're well on that path. So, but anyhow, to my left is Jim Windham. You are founder, president.
Correct.
All other things of Kenetrek Boots?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, and I've been wearing Kenetrek Boots. What year did you start?
2005.
Okay, I got a pair of 2006s. I had them out here, and you guys wanted them for the museum.
Yes.
I'm like, no way, man. I paid for those things. I paid hard money for that, and they're great. I'm still wearing them. But on my right is John Barklow, who I call you all kinds of titles and names, so if I give you the wrong name, speak up, because I don't want Sitka to fire you or promote you, whichever direction it would go. But is it safe to say you're the big game product manager?
That is exactly what I am. Yep.
Yeah. Who hunts all the time? I mean, I hunt a lot, but this guy hunts more than I do.
When I can.
When you can, yeah. You're going out.
I fit it in.
Fit it in.
Yeah.
All right. So that's where we're at, folks. That's who's here. And we have an audience out here in front of us that just had a bunch of free beer. So we're hoping that the questions that they have, no one needs to be bashful or embarrassed, because if anyone's going to make a fool out of themselves tonight, I can assure you it's the person sitting right here in the middle of this couch with these headphones on. So if any of you have questions, just let's get started whenever it is. Otherwise, you're going to have to listen to me sit here and tell stories all night. And I was telling one of you, I have a friend, I grew up with him in northern Minnesota. He said, Randy, the fact that anybody listens to you is a testament to how far a line of bullshit gets you in America. Can you guys hear us back there? Wyatt's saying can't hear. How loud do we got to talk for you guys to hear? That's better? All right, folks. So if the audio sounded louder on this podcast recording, it's because we've got, 3,000-4,000 people here, and we're trying to speak over all of all the shutters going off and everything else. So who's been elk hunting? Pretty much everybody. John, you been out?
I've been out a little bit.
Jim's got a goat tag.
I do.
So he's just been out goat hunting. Rifle season opens tomorrow, right?
No, it opened on the 1st.
Oh, rifle did?
Yep.
Oh. Huh. Why did I have it? Shows how long it's been since I had a goat tag. If you got any questions about drawn tags, Jim's the guy to ask the question of. Jim you see all these animals there? Most of these have your name on it, Jim.
No, just a little less than half.
A little less than half. Well, there's a lot of them, so that's still a lot, right? Is there anybody here who wouldn't want to take Jim's kind of trophy, if you want it, trophy room, if you call that, and bring it home and be able to say, hey, that was mine? Yeah. So who's got the first question? Oh, there we go. So if I hear the question correctly, you're out elk hunting. You got a wolf tag in your pocket and an elk tag in your pocket. Freezer's full. Well, freezer full or not, doesn't matter. Would you switch from elk hunting to wolf hunting? Is that the right question? Yes. Yes? I would. I don't know.
If I could try to kill a wolf with my bow, I'm down every time. Every time.
So right now, Jim, the vote's 2 to what's it going to be?
Yeah. Well, I've killed a lot of elk, and I've never killed a wolf. So
There
to
you
me,
go.
that's an easy solution.
Yeah. Is there anyone in the audience who would keep elk hunting? Is there anyone in the audience who would convert it to a wolf hunt?
Who's killed a wolf?
Yeah.
Anybody in here killed a wolf?
Anyone in here? I mean, we got
there you go. I mean,
someone raise their hand, has shot a wolf? Oh, no. So look at this crowd of badass hunters and how few have shot a wolf. Nobody's shot a wolf.
yeah. I call it a target of opportunity.
Yeah.
If it's there, I'm going to take it.
If you want to get a shot at a wolf, come as my guest hunter. I have hunted wolves, I don't know how many times. Every time I go solo, I never run into a wolf. About half the time when I bring a guest hunter, we run into a wolf and they get the shot. It doesn't seem fair. But anyhow, so I think the answer is everybody's going wolf hunting. In Montana, we got our wolf season, 2012? Is when we were able to start hunting them. So, when does rifle season for wolves open here? Same
no
as big
idea.
game season or something like that?
It's 15 September.
When? Oh, tomorrow, rifle wolf season opens?
It's same as wilderness or backcountry.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they want to match it up with the backcountry elk hunts. Cool. I better head down to FWP and get my 5 allotted tags. I consider that a donation. You know, I always say that FWP doesn't charge us residents maybe as much as they should, but I think I make up for it in all the tags I buy that I end up not using.
Yeah, volume.
But I am a CPA, and I know that I can't deduct that on my taxes as a donation. So,
Really?
See. If you are Jim's CPA, you might want to ask him about what makes up that donation number on his tax return.
That's right.
Anyone else got a question? So the question is, any tips for someone who's just new at using diaphragm calls? Don't take lessons from me would be the first tip. It's embarrassing. You guys know Corey Jacobson. Corey's on the Sitka athlete team. Yeah. So I do these TV shows with Corey, one 9-time world calling champion. And then he's like, well, you call a little bit, Randy. It's like if you were playing when Michael Jordan was out there and he says, hey, why don't you take over from here? I mean, so if you're watching any of our stuff, watch the ones with Corey. Those would be the places where you get some good information. You got any inside advice for a person who's first using a diaphragm call?
Not necessarily how to call, because I'm not going to take Corey's thunder.
Yeah.
But the 2 hardest things for me is, one, finding one that fits my mouth.
Yep. Huge.
So I have to buy a whole bunch, and then I narrow it down. And the place I narrow it down is driving back and forth to work because nobody wants to sit at their kitchen table and cow call in front of their family and get heckled. So finding the one that fits my mouth is the most important, and it costs, a couple bucks here and there to try to figure it out. Like, I cannot use the domes at all.
Me either.
They don't fit my mouth. I must have a really kind of sharp kind of peak in my mouth, and so it won't sit well, and I get a lot of air blow through. Mm-hmm. So there's certain ones that Rocky Mountain Game Calls makes that fit my mouth, and then I practice all summer driving back and forth to work, so nobody has to hear me but me. And those would be my 2 bits of advice. But
that would be exactly what I say. If you look at the roof of people's mouths, some people have a really sharp inside of their mouth. If there's any dentists in the audience, please excuse an accountant explaining about roof of mouth anatomy. Some people have a flat mouth, the roof of their mouth. That's how I am. So like John's saying, if it's one of those ones with the plastic bubble on it, it just wobbles on the roof of my mouth and I can't get a tight seal. So I went over to Rocky Mountain Game Calls in Idaho, and Rocky Mountain Hunting Calls, he said, well, let's find one that works. So he has all kinds of them. He's like, try this one, try that one. I think really he was humoring me because I'm so bad at it. He's like, oh man, I don't know if I can make one this guy can use.
Yeah.
But I found he makes one that's for a larger palate, is what he calls it. I thought a palate was like how your tongue tasted things, but anyhow, he called it a larger pallet, and it works really great. So I bought like 15 of them, and I drive around my truck. I'm a big XM radio guy. I listen to Willie's Roadhouse, and I try to play the songs with my diaphragm call. I don't do a very good job of it. I'm terrible at it, but it forces you to try to get a lot of different tones that you otherwise wouldn't get. Sometimes I force it way out on the end of my tongue or front of my mouth, sometimes further back, just to practice. I'm really bad at it.
I also would throw in there that I have a really narrow palate, the opposite, right? And so usually what I do is I always trim them, right? So that's always an option as well.
Oh.
So you don't have to, like sometimes you'll find a good reed that has a good sound, and you can't quite seal it because you've got too much of that, what they call tape around it. And so you can actually just trim that with scissors to almost get a custom fit that's perfect. You'll know when you go too far because then you have to go to the store and buy another one.
I would just say once you find one, like you said, buy a dozen.
Yeah.
Just invest in them because you wear them out. They get hot in the car. They're no good. And yeah.
And it works. This morning we had a bull come into 5 yards, so I can vouch that once in a while I say the right thing. I never know what I'm saying. Do you know what you're saying when you're doing that?
No, Corey says, what are you trying to tell the elk? Hell, I don't know.
Yeah.
I want him to come and stand in front of me and let me shoot him.
Do any of you know what you're saying when you blow on a diaphragm call? No, I've asked Corey. Well, what'd you tell him? Oh, I don't know. What'd he say? I don't know.
He did say one thing that made a lot of sense to me, and it's an intangible. It's you can't really teach it. He says you have to put emotion into the call, whatever it is. You have to put emotion. So I'm like, I really want you to come and stand in front of me, and
Yeah, I'm coming to take your women.
It still isn't working, but he did say that, and it makes sense. Like how aggressive you are, how soft you are, whatever.
Yeah. In my years of hunting with Corey, I used to be really passive. I'd sit there and think, I'll do a soft cow call or I'll do whatever. Well, this morning was a perfect example. They were not bugling really that much, and I told the guy with me, I'm like, well, let's either run him off or get him to come in here. And the guy's like, well, I don't want to run him off. So I just grabbed my bugle. I'm like, I'm just roaring at him. All of a sudden, we hear brush breaking, and he came right in. Unfortunately, we didn't kill him. Got some really good footage, but we didn't kill him. But the point of that is, I used to be way too passive. Now, it's like, I want to fight. Well, I really want to kill him. I don't want to fight. And if he runs off, he runs off. I'll go find another one. And my number of encounters, close-up encounters that have happened since I become way more aggressive, multitudes more than it used to be. Hardly do any call calling if I can get by with it. I mostly bugle anymore. I used to be like, everything's got to be cow calling. But I'm not a very good elk hunter, so. That comes with a disclaimer, that bit of advice there. I'm a CPA. We're really good at disclaimers. If you ever went and picked up a tax return from a CPA office, it's like 5 pages they make you sign of all the things they're not responsible for. That's kind of that advice you just got. It's
like adding and subtracting?
Yeah, adding and subtracting, checking the right box, stuff like that. That's all your responsibility. But so that advice I just gave is probably worth what you paid for it. Free beer. Next question. The question is there any elk calls I use other than a diaphragm call? He observed that Corey Jacobson on some of our shows uses a bugle tube and a diaphragm call, and that's mostly what he uses. And I'll be honest with you, the open reed calls, I've heard people who can really make them sound good. I can't. Mine sounds like a kazoo at the kid's birthday party when I do it. So I'm like, you know what? I stuff one in the side of my bino pouch to make it look like I know what I'm doing. He might actually use that. No, it's just there for show. So I just use the diaphragm call. But you guys?
I actually use probably less because of the narrow palate thing. I actually use the external, open reeds and do pretty well with that. And I actually like to have several of them because they all sound a little bit different. And it depends on what the temperature is. Like I get completely different sounds out of them. And sometimes I feel like the kazoo thing.
Okay. So this is not just me?
I got nothing. It's like throw that away, grab a different one, start it over.
Well, and it's so frustrating because when the time when it sounds like a kazoo is that critical time when you can tell the bull's getting closer. Sounds like you slammed your dog's tail in the door of your truck or something. It's like, oh, man. Right. You hear footprints or hoof beats running off. How about you, John?
I can't use the open reeds. They tickle my lips and they sound. I wish mine sounded like a kazoo.
Oh, really?
I own every one.
Yeah.
I can't use them, but so I use almost exclusively a diaphragm call to do everything. But last year, we were hunting in Wyoming, and a guy pulled out of his pocket something called an elk reel, R-E-E-L, elk reel, and it's this little block of wood. It's got a little blue foam and a spring. It looks, you're like, this isn't going to work. The easiest and like really realistic cow call you'll ever hear come out of anything. Like with no practice, and you close it, you blow, and you open it up, and elk reel. And so now a bunch of guys in the office have them, and they're pretty cool. Yeah, a guy out of Colorado. It's called the elk reel. So that's the only other thing I've been carrying anymore besides just, I carry 2 or 3 different diaphragms that work for me that put a little bit different sound out. And then that elk reel, and then a tube. Yeah.
That answered the question? Sure. The question is, what's the opinion on elk decoys? Have you used them, and does it work for you? John, you ever use them?
So I own them. I personally haven't ever thought that it helped me one way or the other. It didn't blow anything out. It didn't bring anything in necessarily. I don't use them extensively. But, I will carry it, though. I mean, that one opportunity that I think it might work, I got a heads up. Okay. Not a heads up, but a Montana decoy. Yeah, a Montana decoy. And I have the little clamp, so I can put it, I'll hunt by myself quite a bit, and I'll put it on a bush, cow call, or whatever I'm doing. And, the idea is that little bit of visual will help him come in. I haven't seen definitively where it worked for me.
In my experience, whether it's elk, antelope, deer, right, it either works like magic and it's the greatest thing you've ever done, or you feel like a stupid fool. Most of the time, you feel foolish because they look and they're just like, the light isn't right, the wind's blowing, or you're instead of focusing on hunting, you're trying to get this thing anchored in the ground, and you're out there pounding a stake or trying to tie it to a tree, and you're just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. When it works, though, it's incredible. I mean, it's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I've decoyed antelope and I've had you damn near get run over when it works.
Yeah.
It'll either bring them in or they'll run away, but that's a lot of fun. But the elk, I just haven't found definitively where it works for me.
I don't use them for elk hunting. I use them for antelope hunting because we try to hide those cameras. If you can imagine trying to spot and stalk an antelope with some guy with a camera on a 5-foot tripod, you need something to hide them. So I use those black cow decoys. That's not really a decoy, is it?
No, the moo cow's awesome.
Moo cow, yeah. And now they got one like the brown Betty, and they got all kinds of them now. So, yeah, I got a whole bunch of those, but I don't use them for elk hunting, so I don't really have any experience with them. So, who's next? So the question is, if you're hunting a public-private boundary, what amount of buffer do you give yourself when you're hunting, whether with a rifle or a bow? Anyone want to tackle that one? Or are you guys going to let me step in it?
Step in it.
That's all you, buddy. I don't.
Okay. Well, most of you know that I use the Onyx map stuff. And for being at this podcast, if you use promo code Randy, you're going to get 20% off your Onyx map apps. So go there and get it and save yourself 20%. And now it's not just free beer you save some money. So my advice is getting worth a little more as we go along here. But for me, I give it a pretty decent buffer depending on the conditions and situation. A lot of people, even the private hunters, a lot of times don't go and hunt the boundary areas because they don't want to push the elk onto the public. And the public hunters don't go hunt the boundary area because they don't want to shoot something, have it jump on private and not be able to retrieve their animal. So I hunt these boundaries a lot because I find they're like these sanctuary reservoir areas. If I can, I prefer to put the boundary at my back and be facing into the public. So if something starts coming my direction and I shoot, whether with a bow or a rifle, hopefully it's going to turn and run back deeper into the public. Fortunately, I've never shot an animal that jumped a boundary fence or a boundary location that I had to go and ask permission to retrieve. But not saying it wouldn't happen. I just try to mitigate it by hunting with my back to the private, facing the public. But
Yeah, that's good advice.
that works?
I'll take it.
All right.
Yeah.
I made it up.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, it's good. I made it up. Keep working on that, Randy. All right. So, who's next? I was going to say, man, we're only 22 minutes into it, and we already got all the questions answered. Oh, that's well.
Really?
We'll be about
22 minutes into it, the podcast went to hell.
Yeah, here we go. We issued demerits for people asking controversial questions. The question is, what's opinions? Did you say opinion or opinion? Oh, good. Because when you ask for an opinion, then you know there's no right or wrong. It's just an opinion, right? You guys got any opinions on fixed blade versus expandable broadheads?
The first thing I would say is what animal are you hunting?
Okay.
So when I lived up in Alaska, you couldn't shoot expandables at all the animals. So you could shoot expandables at some, fixed it at others. When I left there, you could shoot expandables at everything. And clearly, people have killed everything in North America with a expandable. I've shot a lot with expandables. I've never actually had a bad experience. Matter of fact, I've always had tremendous success with an expandable. With that said, I've made it my personal choice to not shoot certain animals anymore with expandables, elk being one. And that's just because I'm trying to err on the side of the what if, you know, if I hit a shoulder blade, which I've done in the past, or a rib, I shoot a pretty heavy arrow to begin with. But so my personal choice is for some of those larger big boned animals, brown bear, elk, that kind of a bison or something like that. I wouldn't shoot an expandable anymore, but I have had tremendous success with them in the past. So I don't know if that is helping you at all, but
That's a really good answer. Did he make that up?
I think he did.
So, Jim, I know how many of these animals you've shot with a bow, so I'm going to put a lot of weight in your opinion on this one.
No, you shouldn't.
Shouldn't?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to anyhow.
I've used both I've hunted for a long time, and so, you know, like when the bigger blades were out there and you couldn't get a bow to tune very well, expandable was just a no-brainer, right? To get your bow to shoot very well, shoot accurately. I shot a lot of animals. I've shot sheep with expandables, and I've never really had a lot of issues. A couple of times, like I had a wounded antelope one time that I was trying to get an arrow through a little bit of grass, and you just cannot do it. I mean, it's almost like that grass just reaches up, grabs that arrow, and just drops it down. So there are some limitations. And then if you have a quartering shot, I mean, that expandable on that blade kicking out, it can completely walk off of the target. And I have seen that.
Okay.
Not me personally, but I've seen that happen. And so to me, the broadheads are so, and the expandables are better now than they were when they first came out. But to me, the blades and the bows are so much better now. The broadheads are so much more precise that I just almost find it hard to believe that you can't get a fixed blade to tune and fly just beautifully out of today's bows.
Yeah.
And so if you can do that, why would you ever go with something that you're relying on to mechanically open? Just my 2 cents.
Wow. Those were two really good answers. I don't have anything to add to that because, again, I'd be making it up. I've never shot an expandable.
Oh, you haven't?
I never have.
Oh, okay.
So I can't provide anything that wouldn't be biased just based on the fact I've always shot fixed blade. Even at grouse. I shot a grouse today. No, I had a judo point, but I got a lot of fixed blades that are really messed up because I shot grouse with them. Have you ever shot a grouse in a tree and had your arrow stick in the tree? So if you go down to Hebgen Lake, where the road goes up to Cherry Creek, the grouse always fly off the road straight out in front of you, like 15 yards. You will find 2 of Randy Newberg's arrows stuck in big fir trees. I'm not strong enough to climb those big caliper fir trees to get my arrow out of there. And both times I lost the grouse too. So I'll shoot them with a broad. Both those were with broadheads, not judo points. So I was hoping the question was fixed or expandables on grouse, not elk and other stuff. But sure, okay. What broadhead you shooting for elk, John?
Well, I have a couple. It sounds bad.
If it puts you in a bad spot.
No, it doesn't. But
okay.
I got Iron Will 100s in my quiver right now. So it's a really nice kind of traditional 2-blade with some bleeder blades, and they're flying exceptionally well right now. So that's what I have in my quiver at the moment. I have at any time, I probably have 3 or 4 broadheads that I can cycle through my bow that I'll shoot the same. Like Jim said, a lot of tuning to get there. But so I'm shooting those right now. I've shot Ramcats in the past, Exodus in the past, all with really good success. Yeah, I like to try to shoot something that's got a little bit bigger cutting diameter than just an inch. I like to get as big a cut diameter as I can that'll fly well out of my bow. So,
Slick trick for me, slick trick.
yeah, that's an excellent choice.
On a lot of these animals, if you use slick trick.
Yeah, like I say, I'm much older than I look. So,
All right.
so I think I'm older than Slick Trick is. So there's a lot of others that are represented here.
So the follow-up question was, has Jim shot a lot of the animals here in the Kenetrek showroom with slick trick? And you
Yes.
said the answer was yes.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
No.
Do you shoot with 3 or 4 veins on your arrow?
I shoot 3 still.
Okay.
3 still, but I'm actually teetering, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Wyatt, I think just wherever Wyatt is, he just went to 4 veins, and he was, I think you can use a little bit lower profile, and because you're using a drop away rest,
Yeah.
at this point, I think you can get away with that. Like the tuning isn't as big of an issue, and so it might be a little bit more forgiving. So
I experimented with it this summer. That's why I asked. And,
yeah,
I mean,
haven't
it was.
made the conversion yet because I'm too cheap. I have like 24 hours right now.
Yeah, that's the problem. But
Well,
I'm
that's
just
a good-
asking because you're shooting a 4-blade broadhead. So
Yes.
I was curious.
Me, I shoot Magnus stingers or whack'ems, 125 grains. People see my stingers and they're like, "What? That looks like a paper airplane out on the end of your arrow there." I don't know. There's some dead elk and deer and antelope that didn't know the difference. So, but I would defer to what these guys say. They are way, way more experienced archery hunters than I ever will be. So, and that's the truth. I didn't make that up. So, who's next? Zach. All right. Zach knows that I'm old school. I don't know how old you are, Jim. Jim, how old are you?
53.
Oh, I'm going to be 53 in 6 weeks.
You're younger than I am?
I am.
You're grayer than I am.
By far. I'm grayer than... Moby Dick was a minnow when I started turning gray. How old are you, John?
That's not a good question to ask somebody.
I would never ask your wife sitting here in the front row, but I'll ask you.
I'm 48. Yeah.
Whippersnapper. Yeah. All right. So the reason I ask that is I'm like this old school guy who, even when GPSs came out, I was a compass and paper map guy.
Yeah.
I was like, those things just can't work. I sounded like my dad when I was saying that. Well, I use my Onyx chip in my GPS. I have a Montana, I think it's the 600. Now it's been replaced with the 650, but it has a screen on it about this big. And when you get to be 52, 53, you like big screens. Anyone nodding their head is at least over 45. Anyone laughing is under 45 because they still have good eyes. But this year I forced myself to go to the app on the smartphone, and I really like it. You can get way more layers. You can get way more detail. There are just so many things that you can get on your smartphone that you can't get on a traditional GPS. And I've become, I'll admit, I'm starting to get addicted to it. Now that they came out with the new release last month, you can go offline and download the maps to your phone. The files are way more manageable. When I put this on airplane mode, I can get probably 8 to 10, 12 hours, depending on what I have my backlight settings and other things on. And then I was complaining that my batteries die too soon. So OnX bought me one of those little Mophie.
Oh, yeah.
Is that how you
Oh, I got one. Love it.
I just got one.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm like, what is this thing? I had to call my son. He's a computer engineer. I'm like, they sent me this Mophie thing. What the hell is this thing? I'm sure on the other end of the phone, he's like, Dad, come on. But I can get 3 or 4 recharges out of that Mophie. So we're going to give it a full test in Wyoming next week. We're going into a backcountry hunt, backpacks, and we're going to see, can Randy loosen his grip on his little safety blanket called his Garmin's Montana GPS? I'm getting there.
So do you get as good of satellite tracking reception? That would be my big question,
Yeah,
right?
mine too.
Is the satellite tracking as good on your phone
I
as
don't
it
know.
is on the GPS?
I just assumed. You mean as far as does it drop?
Where you're at, like I know you can download the maps
Right.
and everything, but as far as your location has to be satellite because you can't be cellular, right? And so
Right, it is satellite. Well, let
that's
me
my-
see. Does it say I'm sitting on a couch at Kenetrek right
well,
here?
here.
Oh, it will here? Why is
Yeah.
that? Why would it here but not out in the woods? We'll get to that later. But anyhow, I don't know the answer to that question.
That's the only question I have.
Huh. I guess I'm going to find out. So we got a guy in the audience. He said that he was on private or public ground according to his OnX app, and the game warden said he is on private. I have a story counter to that. As quick as you have a comment? Okay. He said that he's had instances where his
Yeah.
Garmin GPS would pick up reception and his phone would not. Okay. And now we have someone who said he's heard instances where the phone worked and picked up reception, but the Garmin wouldn't.
Really?
So this guy was hunting down in southwest Montana. He just told the story that you drive up there and the landowner has a sign that says you're on private land, your GPS is wrong. Really? Wow. I've never encountered that. But to the guy who said that the game warden, so we were in Wyoming hunting one time, and the landowner came and said, "Hey boys, what are you doing here?" "Well, we're hunting this BLM land." "Not here, you're not," he says. "Oh, really?" So he leaves. I'm like, oh, he's going to call the sheriff. I'm in trouble now. He comes back about 2 hours later and apologizes. He's like, you know what? I've been the manager of this ranch for 20-some years. I did not know this little piece was BLM. It was the next morning. The game warden drives by. He stops. He's like, hey, what you boys doing? Oh, we're waiting for these elk to jump that fence. We're going to shoot one of them. Well, he knew the outfitter and the guides. He's like, well, where's so-and-so? I said, who's that? Well, the guy who owns this property. I said, no, this is BLM. He didn't know it was BLM either. So I just say that anecdotally because I think there's a lot of this gray fuzzy that is just kind of tradition in history of, well, I've bluffed enough people or whatever. I mean, I don't think that happens often, but I rely on my Onyx system religiously. And so he agreed with your GPS eventually. You know, the funny part is most wardens have the Onyx app or the Onyx chips as their property boundary resource. So, who's next? Oh, right back here, this guy, I don't think he's drank enough beer yet. So the question is, if you're archery elk hunting and you got multiple bulls around you, how do you decide which one to go after? Yeah. Or do you just sit there and try to call one in? Yeah. Okay. Who wants to tackle that one? I know what I do.
What would you do?
I go after whichever one's making the most noise. Okay. It's kind of like fishing. I was telling that this morning when Bart said, are you sure that we're not going to scare this guy off? I don't know how, my wife is a fanatic walleye fisherwoman, walleye angler. There we go. That's politically correct. And she's got a walleye tournament boat that is the envy of every guy who comes in my shop. She has electronics on there that make these big screen TVs look like old technology. So we'll be flying across Fort Peck, and you'll see all these fish on these fish finders. And if I stop there and they don't bite right away, I call them carp and I go on to the next one. If they don't want to bite, I don't want to waste my time. So I use that same approach when I'm elk hunting. If I know there are elk there, but they're not calling, heck with it, I'm going to the next basin and the next basin until I find one that wants to carry on. So for me, the answer is I'm going to find whatever one's making the most noise, and I'm going to go try and make a setup on him. So
if I can't see him, I'm going to probably take the one that has the best setup, best wind, best terrain. If I can't see him, all things being equal, I'm not going to go after the one with the wind at my back. So, I would definitely see if there was a better setup, I would try to go after that one first.
That's why you take John's advice instead of my advice.
That's good.
You a flip of a coin, or what would be your solution, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, I'm wrong more than half the time anyway, so I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah.
Just depend on the circumstances?
Which way the wind blows.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we got two guys who are going to go based on how the wind is. And quite honestly, I probably would do that. But if there's one that just is making a mess, I'll circle around because it's fun. I want the guy who's going to get me excited. Hopefully come into my bad calling. So, but who's next? We can't be out of questions. Yeah. Oh, we got another one. So the question, I think it's seeking opinions. Are you seeking opinions about elk estrus scents? Is that okay? So he said that he hunts with two guys. One guy dabs a little bit on him. Some guy showers in it. Maybe uses it for mouthwash. Did I hear you say that? He's not hunting with me. Let's put it that way. He's not getting in my truck. But you guys use that stuff?
No.
Me either. That is like the biggest gimmick in the world. If you get upwind of an elk, you're just screwed. You made a mistake. I get a lot of these whitetail hunters who try to tell me, oh, well, you didn't use blah, blah, you should have went and rolled in a big pile of pee or wallowed or something. It's like, really? I don't think so. So That's my opinion. You guys?
No, I don't use it. I mean, when I was a kid, whitetail hunting back in Ohio, I did, but in Alaska, you couldn't even use a cover scent. They were illegal. So, yeah, I've never even touched it since I left Ohio.
I just try to bathe.
Jim bathes regularly. Needless to say, with my opinion on cover scents and stuff like that, my TV show is never going to be sponsored by one of those companies. So if you ever see that advertisement in my TV show, the network sold that commercial unit, not me. So, all right, who's next? Follow-up question. All right. Do we use any of the like clothing and or detergents and spray down stuff? I don't.
I do not for big game hunting. Whitetail hunting, yes, nothing else.
I actually do, just because I think it gives you a little bit of a, in my mind anyway, it gives me a little bit of an edge. If you can stay cleaner, reduce your scent a little bit, it can't hurt, is what I'm thinking,
no.
Right? And so, I don't know. I don't use it all the time, but...
Well, the question was, what do they use?
Just some of the different sprays, right? Just to spray down. Just stay away from the, yeah, right. So just stay, and I've got some friends that are serious hardcore whitetail hunters, and boy, those guys are, and I'm not successful really at killing a lot of big whitetails, but I want to be someday. I figure that's kind of my retirement plan, So okay. I figure I got to learn it, because for one thing, they won't allow me to hunt with them. I mean, they are like absolutely paranoid about scent.
Oh.
So.
Well, now you know why John and Jim shoot a lot more things with their bow than I do. Yeah, and do they still have like Charlie Brown and Lucy?
Pigpen?
Pigpen. I'm like Pigpen out there, man. There's a cloud of odor around me because I don't use any of this stuff these guys are using. But when I'm out in the field, out in camp, I don't shower. I take a, whatever you want to call it, baby wipe, sponge bath, at least every other day. And I make my camera guys do it because, and nothing personal, Michael, but camera guys have some sort of aversion to soap and water. I think to get your degree in film school, you have to show up at graduation not having showered for 3 weeks. So, sorry, Michael. But anyhow, we impose some rules, even though as a collective group, we probably really do look like Pigpen walking around out there. You knew exactly where I was going with that, Jim.
I did, yeah.
See, I
did.
All right. Who else has another question? Oh, man. Now we're going to have to make it up. Oh, good. Whew. Northern Minnesota hockey. What happened? You mean, why do I still have all my teeth?
Why did you play?
Not very well. This guy obviously knows about Northern Minnesota. I grew up in Northern Minnesota. Our town was too small to have a hockey team, actually. We were just outside International Falls, and they had a really good hockey team. Grand Rapids had a really good hockey team. They were the other direction. I'm really bad at hockey. I'm below average at everything in life. I am even way below average at hockey. So that had nothing to do with hunting. You guys play hockey ever?
No.
No?
Nope.
Oh, well, I could tell you guys have those nice teeth still remaining. But all right, we're really getting low on questions here. If people are going to start asking hockey questions. Oh, here we got a young hunter here. All right, we said that
just when you thought.
Yeah. Well, when Wyatt started the process today, he said there's no question that's off limits.
He did.
What was your worst subject in school is the question.
School.
School.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All of it.
Hands down.
Math, hands down, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
I would have to say Spanish. I took one class of Spanish. I actually dropped that.
Huh. Spanish.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But when I got thrown in jail in Mexico, that Spanish class would have come in really good. But in high school, I had to take German. Fraulein Dorte was the teacher. She hated me. But I probably gave her just cause for that. You know the old saying about fourth grade was a really hard 3 years of my life? If it would have been all German classes, I would have just dropped out. So, Spanish, German. Did you take a foreign language, John?
Spanish.
Yeah. See, in northern Minnesota, no one takes Spanish. You know, it's not like we have an immigration problem in northern Minnesota. You know, you take Finn, you take Norwegian, you take German. If you really want to sound sophisticated, you take French. But we already knew a lot of French because all the Canadians living across the border. No, it never dawned on me to take Spanish until I'm in a jail in Mexico.
Why were you in a jail in Mexico?
That's a whole nother podcast. But if you told me I could go to Mexico and shoot one of these big desert sheep and you gave me the hunt, I wouldn't go.
No.
However long I live, if I die of natural causes, I would have lived 10 years longer if not for that weekend in a Mexican jail.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. We ended up, the short story is, we had a brand new Toyota 4x4. And when you are in a Mexican prison with some of the most sex-starved, hardened criminals Mexico has, you will tell your buddy, we will buy you a new Toyota 4x4 if we jump ship here and we run away from the federales. And that's what we did.
Really?
So, yeah, that's what my student loan went for that semester. My share of a brand new Toyota 4x4. And report was 2 years later, if you went back there, it was still sitting in front of the police station. He was waiting for us to come back and get it or something. I don't know. So what little English or Spanish, what little communication was there, the guy's like, 9 o'clock tomorrow is your sentencing. Not a hearing, not an arraignment or nothing. You're sentencing. And we found a guy who happened to be there. He could speak Spanish. He's like, what the hell did you guys do? I've been coming down here all my life. I've never seen anyone in this much trouble. Well, hey, Joe, what would you do if you were us? I'd get the hell out of here, he said. So that's, how did we get on the, foreign language. And thanks for asking the question.
See where that went?
See?
Yeah.
I told you, there is nothing out of bounds, and you never know where it's going to lead. Some innocent young person asks a question. Oh, online.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Wyatt came in and gave us a whole sheet full of online questions.
Yeah, but the amazing thing is they're written in Spanish.
Yeah. There you go, Jim. You get to read it.
Got it.
All right, we got an in-house question here. I'm going to defer to these guys because you see that big wall of antelope up there. Jim shot most of those with his bow. But the question is, what tactics do you use if you're in a really flat, like pool table type setting and you're archery hunting antelope spot and stock? Is that the question? All right. John, you were just on a hunt where 4 of you shot 5 antelope.
Yeah.
Was any of it in that condition?
You have to, he already painted the scenario, right?
Yeah.
So pool table flat. You have to pick your battles.
Right.
Though, the great thing about antelope is there's normally lots of opportunities, but I can only go chasing them across the prairie for so long. So I would say if you have the opportunity, you need to pick the time of season to go. And if you go later in, mid-September, like right now, where they're starting to rut, then I would say decoy could be a good opportunity. I would say ambush would be a good opportunity when the buck's running, the does around, and, if you can kind of see that they're moving and trying to take a target of opportunity in an ambush spot, a pinch point, try to decoy them. If it's in August, man, that's a tough, it's tough sledding, right? It just is. And you got to be ready to maybe, stretch your range a little bit. They're not going to come stand in front of you. The shots are going to be quick. It's tough, but it's a lot of fun. I've just learned you have to really start picking your battles. If that was the only place I had to hunt, I'd maybe employ one of those, or I would try to maybe find a little bit better terrain for archery hunting. We were able to get, I was telling him, we ended up actually shooting 6 antelope in 5 days in Wyoming and Montana. So we had a pretty good run, but that's a probably 5-to-1, maybe 5-6-to-1 stalks before you get a shot opportunity. But we were trying to be pretty selective.
Yeah. Jim?
Yeah, all I would say is just patience. I mean, big time patience, and it has to be right. I mean, if they're in the dead center of a field and it's absolutely flat, you're not. That's going to be way more than 6 to 1. That's going to be 100 to 1.
Oh, yeah.
It's just not going to happen. But I mean, eventually, if you're patient, if you wait, if you're determined to hunt that antelope, like my partner Bob that has killed half. He's killed all the big half that's in here, I would say. But I can remember he identified one antelope. He lives in Great Falls, and so he hunts up in that area. And he decided to try to kill one antelope, and it took him forever. He finally did kill that buck, but he tried decoys, he tried blinds, sitting over water. He belly crawled. I mean, he knew more about that antelope, and the antelope was like 10 times before he finally got him. So it was patience. I mean, he wouldn't just go at him and run him out of the country. He just recognized it's not today. And so he would come back and he would wait, and he finally had an opportunity and was able to kill that buck. But I mean, it took ridiculous patience. I'm like, are you serious? It's just an antelope.
Yeah, there's lots of them.
He devoted his whole season, but he just was fixated on that buck, and he did it, but it took a lot of patience.
Well, my answer would be I'd go find different antelope. No, really, I'm serious. I would. But if it was the only antelope in the place I had to hunt, I'd probably go shoot grouse that day. You're right. It's 100 to 1 odds.
It is.
So, but I have hunted a lot of antelope in some places where I thought, we will never kill that thing. There are some undulations to terrain that at first do not appear obvious. And then you see an antelope move off. You're like, how did he disappear? Well, you realize there's a little cut or some sort of little undulation there that you can take advantage of. So I would probably examine it until I decided, I better hunt grouse today. So in the back. If you only had one weekend to archery elk hunt in Montana, what weekend would you choose and what terrain would you go to? Is that the question? I'd choose this coming weekend. It's going to snow, maybe, or at least get cool. We're coming off a full moon to a new moon. Temperatures are going to be really good. We're getting into the peak of the rut. I'd pick sometime like right now. What's that going to be? September 16th and 17th? Yeah. That's what I'd do. As far as terrain, I'd go wherever I think I've encountered elk at that time before. It's kind of in my backyard around here, like it is for all of us. So we all kind of have our little honey holes. For me, I'm probably going into some thicker, nastier stuff because the older bulls seem to have a tendency to push their cows in there. But you ask 100 guys that question, you're probably going to get 200 opinions. John, what's yours?
I've had really good luck the end of the month. If you're talking specifically this year, I mean, like he said, with the moon and everything, getting cold, could be a really good weekend. But I've normally waited and had pretty good luck at the end of the month and even into October. There's less people out there, call it the second estrus or whatever, but there's less pressure. And I've had some tremendous elk hunting towards the end of September into October.
I kind of agree with that. I think the overall opinion would be like this upcoming weekend. Just going into the peak of the rut, the very best. The elk haven't had a bunch of bad experiences yet. They will after this weekend, but there'll be other hunters that are chasing them and stuff. But the other thing too that a lot of times depends on. I don't know. To me, it isn't always the success of killing one. Sometimes it's the success of how much fun was it to hunt. And when they're bugling and there's just nothing like it. Some of the very best hunting days I've ever had, I never even shot an arrow. And I mean, you're just like, I've actually had bulls slobber on my face. I mean, it's like, what? I mean, just drop your bow and walk away. It's like, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, just to where you're actually afraid for your life. Like, he's going to kill me. Well, that's a really cool experience that it's hard to, I mean, that's like more memorable than any of the ones that I've probably ever shot. And so, I don't know, if you look at it that way, if you really think just to kill an elk, to be the most successful, sometimes the earliest season is better because they're not cowed up. Those bulls will definitely come to a call because they're just starting to kind of feel it a little bit. Nobody's bumped them in the woods yet. And so I think a lot of times you can kill a bigger bull early. It's just really boring hunting. I mean, it's super hot during the day. And again, you got to have the patience. It's just not as much fun.
Not nearly as fun. Oh, man, we got, now that look at these guys. So Wyatt brings out 7 online questions, and now everybody in the audience is raising their hand. They're afraid their question isn't going to get in if we answer the online questions. So we're going to do the in-house folks here since they got free beer and they're ready to do something. So back there. So the question is, any tips or tricks? Not trips or ticks. All right. Tips or tricks, right? Okay, I got it. For a new hunter in rifle elk season. You got any, John? No, John doesn't have any. Jim? You guys do so much archery hunting.
We do a lot more of that. Yeah.
All right, so I guess this one falls on me. I don't know that I have any quote-unquote tricks, but let's talk about here in Montana. Our rifle season is going to be either in the post-rut calendar period or the late season calendar period. Those times of year, the elk, public land elk that I hunt anyhow, have left the cows. They're now going to recoup from the rut. They're trying to get away from hunters. I always talk about they're looking for sanctuaries. How can they get away from people? Either due to distance, topography, boundaries where the hunting pressure is not going to be there. And these bulls have figured it out year after year. A mature bull goes to the same kind of areas, if not the same area, every year after the rut. It's much harder hunting. It's glassing for the most part and takes a lot of patience. And so I tell people just prepare that it's going to be tougher hunting. You're not going to have the benefit of calling. You're not going to have the benefit of the rut. They're probably not going to be coming to wallows or having to come to water. Go and find places where a bull elk can get old. And people say, well, what's that look like? I always say if you walk up to a spot and you look down or you look up and say, I don't want to kill an elk in there, you've probably found a sanctuary. And so just be prepared to glass a lot. I'm surprised in rifle seasons how little time people spend glassing. I always say that in rifle season, you spend 90% of your time trying to find the bull and 10% of the time trying to kill it. And the easiest way to find it is with optics. Just my experience. And we do mostly rifle elk hunts in the TV show. And we show up to places we've never been to, and we have 5 days to figure it out, sort it out, and hopefully pack it out. So we kind of have to have this process of how do we do it. And most of how we do it is getting to glassing points and spending a lot of time behind our optics.
That's good advice.
I made that up.
That's good.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll go with it today. Hopefully, I didn't make it up. I've just made every possible dumb mistake rifle elk hunting that I invent ways to screw up an elk hunt. And so it's 25 years of making dumb mistakes is how I've had to boil it down. So way in the back there. Montana has fall bear hunting this right now, and you're going on a fall bear hunt this weekend. A lot of states actually have fall bear seasons. In fact, more have fall seasons than spring seasons. Question is tactics. Other than looking for berries and food, you guys have any tactics?
I don't normally hunt bears during the fall, so I'd have to think about that.
I see a lot of them when I'm out elk hunting, but it's just about always where there's berries.
Yeah, I think food sources would definitely be the key.
That's where
That's tough. Yeah, glassing, berries, open hillsides. That's all I can think of.
if I can't find a food source for black bears, would I recommend predator calling? Not around here. Yeah, I think we've had 3 grizzly maulings already in archery season. I never predator call or call for bears here or in grizzly country. Because you might call in a bear, but might be the wrong one that gets you in a lot of trouble or gets you a quick trip to the ER. So I don't know. I've never shot a fall bear. Have you guys?
No.
I have just incidentally, it wasn't necessarily, you just ran across one, kind of like a wolf.
Yeah. I've had chances to shoot them in the fall, but I was too busy grouse hunting. So I wasn't going to. What's that? Mainly spring bear hunt, yeah. In the springtime? I go wherever it first greens up.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to follow the green.
Yeah. So, all right. You had a question. What's the most common mistake that each of us have made while hunting in our years of doing it, and how did we overcome it? That's the question. Who wants to start?
I'll start with that. My biggest mistake is always speed, moving too fast. I can't tell you how many times that I'm just thinking, oh, it's just that far. I'll just scoot across there and then look, and then stop. And it's just fatal. And the only way I don't even know if I have overcome it, but I'm older and I'm slower. That's all I got.
Age has solved that problem for you, huh, Jim?
Helped a little.
Helped, okay. John?
So to me, it's patience. So again, not that we're too old, but as I guess more experience, I've gotten more patient. And the one mistake I've made countless times is you get in close, you make a good stalk, you'd swear he's supposed to be right behind this bush or tree, and you just let your guard down and go, he must have left, and not be patient to sit there and wait. You take one or two steps and the buck or bull's right there, and you blew the opportunity that you maybe spent half a day trying to get. So that patience, it's funny because do you know I like cats, like house cats?
Really? No, I'm allergic to
now.
them. I'm allergic to them.
But I watch. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I watch my cat stalk a bird or a rabbit or something, and I swear I'm like, if I could be as patient as that cat, I could kill every time, because he's not worried about the weather and getting hungry and getting back to the truck before dark, and so patience, absolutely. I've learned. I still will the rest of my life, but and so I think that kind of goes hand in hand with going slower, because you want to get there quick, but you have to be patient, especially archery hunting, I think.
I would agree with both of what you guys said. I still have those same ailments. Probably the thing that I've noticed as I've hunted longer, the mental mindset that this is going to be harder than I want it to be has really helped me. When I was 30, I would find a million excuses about, well, I should just go home today. The snow needs shoveled or blah, blah, blah. Because when it started getting frustrating and started taking more commitment, more work than I thought it was, my mind would start checking out. As I've gotten older, I just accept, you know what? This is probably going to take me 3 weeks to kill a bull elk. And if it only takes me 3 days, hey, all the better. So for me, setting the mental expectation properly has been the thing that has gotten better for me over time. How do you increase your margin of safety while hunting elk in grizzly country? Does that say it? Anyone got any great ideas about that? But you know what happens? Whoever gives the most profound response is going to get eaten by a bear in the next week. So
No kidding.
Jim's over here like, oh, great. And he's going to ask me to answer it. You got any tips?
Well, I hate bears. It's a real fear that I have. I've had them come to my tent twice.
Ooh.
Which really sucks. Especially
See, if you smell like Pigpen, they don't come to your tent.
or maybe they do.
Well, if so, I sleep real hard. I've never had one come and wake me up. But
anyway, the bear spray, especially if you're a bear spray person, if you have a bear come to the tent, all you're doing is feeding him Cajun cooking at that point, right? You're spicing yourself, right? You can't do anything there. And so I actually have bear spray, and I pack a sidearm when I can. But Canada, you can't deal with that. And so I spent a lot of sleepless nights after those experiences. The funny thing is they don't bother me during the day as much. I'm aware But that coming at night that's a pretty terrifying experience. I mean, like right to the tent. And I mean, because there's only one reason they're coming there, and that's not,
Not
to
say
see what you are.
Not to tuck you in
No,
and say.
that's a bad deal. And so I don't know. I mean, that's all I got. I spent a lot of sleepless nights, and I hunt with my partner, Bob, that a hunting partner and business partner, and he says, I sleep like a baby when I'm with you because anything moves within 100 yards, you are on it. I'm like, it's not good.
You've spent a lot of time in Alaska, John, so you've...
Yeah, I could probably talk for 2 hours on this subject, but, the kind of flip answer is don't bow hunt, because you're literally doing everything wrong in bear country when you bow hunt. Wind in your face, being quiet, making calls. I mean, but that's not an option, right? So during the day, I mean, I definitely don't predator call, but during the day, it doesn't bother me as much, like Jim's talking about. Obviously, if you have two people is better than one for lots of reasons, not just the bears. But what's that? Right.
Oh yeah, the guy who asked the question said, "Yeah, two's better than one. You got someone to carry you out."
I definitely think it's very prudent to carry bear spray. That's super cheap insurance. I mean, I carry a pistol, but that's a personal choice. You got to talk about caliber and training, etc. One of the things I used to do, I lived on Kodiak Island for a long time, and mind you, the bears are a little different, just mentality-wise and attitude-wise than they are here. But I have a little electric fence that I can carry the unit, which runs on 2 AA's, and a bunch of wire and some zip ties, and it fits in a gallon Ziploc bag. It weighs right about 3 pounds. So, I mean, for the weight zealots, it's going to be 3 pounds too much, but if you are in that country, and I get to my camp, I put the tent up, I run it around. I carry a trekking pole. I use a trekking pole as a ground rod. I run one piece of wire, and just from experience, I've seen that one piece of wire is enough to keep a bear away, or at least the bears I've run into. And then I can sleep pretty sound. We've had meat hanging in the tree, couldn't get out of the field that night. And so a little bear fence, I think, is one of the things that's a little bit overlooked down here in the lower 48. Especially in some of these drainages, the gravelly range, like, Taylor's Fork. Like, we all know where the bears are, and you either choose not to hunt there, or you have to take a little bit of extra precaution. For me, it's not too much to do that. I don't do that all the time, but I think that is something that's a little bit overlooked. Nate Simmons and some guys have written some articles and stuff about that in the past, but. That's something that's not often talked about, and it's not a lot of money. I think my unit was, $120 or something like that. So,
I don't have any great advice for that.
Sleep real hard.
I could fall asleep right here, right now, if I put my mind to it. So
don't do that. We don't know how to turn this off.
I know, but sleeping in grizzly country never seems to be a problem for me. I elk hunt. Pretty much all my Montana elk hunting is in grizzly country, and I know I'm going to get eaten by saying this. I just let the chips fall where they may. I take the precautions. I don't do anything stupid. I keep a clean camp. I keep my food away.
I heard you brought a dilly bar to bed at night every.
Quiet.
No?
Don't be telling everyone. People will be digging in my pack for my dilly bars. But I don't know. I don't carry a sidearm. I don't carry a handgun. You carry bear spray. And part of that is, if you've ever seen me shoot a handgun, you'd know why I don't carry one. To me, that's just an extra chunk of weight that I carry. So I don't have an easy answer. I think over time, I've gotten more comfortable and just accepted the fact that, you know what, if I just have a streak of bad luck, I'm probably going to have a streak of bad luck. Call my wife, tell her where I'm buried, and we'll call it what a good life and what a way to go out hunting. I know some people are like, gosh, this guy's weird. We knew that before I said that comment. But,
I had a friend who was an archaeologist. Well, he still is an archaeologist, and his study is of indigenous cultures in the north. And so he's on, I think, Baffin Island. Don't quote me on that, but he's up in Baffin Island. they're up there in the summer, and they've got the locals around with shotguns, you know, and they're in wall tents, and they're kind of protecting him. And so anyways, he's laying on his cot one night. He's in his wall tent, and right here, he wakes up, and he realizes there's a polar bear outside his tent. Ooh. And so he's just laying there, and he doesn't want to scream like bear in camp or anything, because the bear's right there. And he's got a shotgun, but the shotgun's like, you know, of course, in the most inopportune place in the corner. And so he's just laying there, and the bear slowly works around, and now he's at the door. Now the door is just a couple flaps, right? And so as the bear goes to the door, he slides off his rack, and he realized he's got the bear spray right there. So he takes the bear spray, and he's crawling up to the door, you know, and he says the bear's starting to push on the door with its head. And, you know, these polar bears they're predatory.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the way he told it. So I'm just relating it third hand, but it's kind of like, you know, that movie Alien, right? When that big head comes in, and he says, all of a sudden, he says the tent flaps part, and he says this snout starts coming through, and he says he takes that can of bear spray and he sticks it right in the nostril of this bear and just hammers the trigger, right? And then, of course, the bear runs away, and then he starts yelling, you know, bear, bear, and ringing the bell or whatever the hell they do. And, you know, nobody can find this bear. He says the next day, everybody's around camp, and they're talking about it, and there's this polar bear a couple 100 yards away from camp with this orange head. And they're like, gee, I wonder which bear that was, you know? So that's my bear story, but...
I don't have any cool bear stories like that. I don't want any bear stories like that. But so before we get to a couple more of the audience questions, we have this one here, and obviously this one's coming to you, Jim.
Oh.
Methods on breaking in new boots?
Nice.
Question mark.
Yeah, that's
Got
a
any
pretty
tips?
good one. I do. I mean, especially in the mountain boots, you know, like our mountain boots are stiff by nature. And you need that. You need that support, you know, especially if you're in really rocky and uneven terrain. But the bad thing is you have to break that boot into your foot specifically. And I mean, you can fit them perfectly, but I see some of the boots here, right? It's like, how many miles you got on that?
I bought them a month ago, and I just started wearing them.
Yeah.
Too hot, so I'm trying to
Yeah.
going to work.
Yeah, so you definitely, whatever you can do. I mean, obviously, you're better off using them in rugged terrain, but if you can even do 40 or 50 miles, we say for our boots, even if it's flat ground, I mean, that's way better off. Like, one quick story, I mean, you always hear horror stories about, you know, people that have done different things, but I remember I was coming out of a sheep hunt in the Northwest Territories, and the plane was, you know, working like a taxi cab of dropping hunters at different places, and I still remember there was a guy that we flew in and dropped this guy off, and we were headed out. We were all beat up and everything, and this guy literally pulled out a brand new pair of boots out of the box.
On a sheep hunt.
Took in the Northwest Territories, right? Total backpack. And pitched those brand new boots to the shore. I'm just like, the odds of that working out in his favor are really, really low. I mean, so the point is, as much time as you can put in on them, the better off that you are. So that's what I would say.
All right. So I'm going to skip down because now I'm going to one with you, John. Recommended layering system for a late season hunt. Let's assume it's in Montana. So a November hunt. What's your layering system?
Well, in any layering system, no matter what brand, you have to start with the base layers, right? So, you know, base layers are what I call the foundation of the house, or the foundation of your layering system. It really is personal preference if you want to wear synthetic or wool. I'm personally, you know, some people may know I'm pro synthetic. Which doesn't mean I'm anti-wool. I'm just pro-synthetic.
It smells that way.
Yeah. I enjoy synthetic's ability to dry very quickly, especially the layer that's directly contacting my skin. So no matter what, I think you need to start with a lightweight base layer, synthetic or wool. And then from there, it really depends on a lot of factors, but you need to have a pair of soft shell pants on, something that's durable, something preferably that's, if it gets wet, when it gets wet, it's going to dry pretty quick, and that day in, day out kind of activity. You get into a wall tent or a sleeping bag, and those pants will dry and be ready for the next day. So some kind of synthetic pant, again, polyester. Nylon absorbs even less water. Tops, there's a little bit of preference. I like a windstopper type jacket. I think it has a really broad range of conditions it can be worn in. So windstopper is pretty water resistant. Obviously, it's very wind resistant. It will breathe better than a Gore-Tex jacket just because it's not as waterproof. So I personally like a windstopper type jacket. And then I'm really big with lofted layers. I don't particularly like to wear a lot of fleece. There's some really nice fleece pieces out there and some really thicker, nice wool pieces that are out there. I like the kind of compressibility. I like the versatility of a loft piece that can be worn under a garment, over a garment, under a rain jacket. So I really like synthetic loft. I'm more pro-synthetic than anti-down. I think down, though, a lot of times, depending on the environment you're in, if it's really cold, there's not a lot of moisture. Because of that cold temperature, you can get away with down. If you're going on a float hunt in Alaska in September or October, I certainly wouldn't recommend, bringing down, just because if it gets wet, it's so much harder to dry. But really, it's synthetic base layer, wool base layer to start, and then you start going out from there. I tend to not wear really anything more on my bottom except just a lightweight base layer and pants, because they're so difficult to kind of take on and off during the day. It's almost like you commit to your lower body insulation when you leave the tent or leave the cabin, where upper body insulation can tend to be, changed out during the day as necessary. But it's really difficult. Are you going to sit there and glass for 12 hours after moose? Are you going to be riding a horse? Are you going to be spotting and stalking? It really depends on, exactly what kind of hunt. But those general things are what I would, tend to wear. And then the loft insulation is really where you can start to go, a lighter, a slightly heavier, or a full, kind of down jacket or big heavy loft piece as the seasons progress.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask me that because they know that I use Sitka gear, and they're like, well, what pieces do you use? My elk hunting uniform, if you want to call it that, is merino base layers for me. Just because, talking about that we don't get to shower a lot thing. Yeah. Merino seems to handle that better than synthetics.
Absolutely it does.
And that's my only reason for the preference, but my pants are just in those November, late October, November hunts, just about always a timberline pants. I call it a puffy coat. The Primo Loft coats is that loft layer for my upper. I have that merino zip tee as my base layer on the top. I might put one smaller layer on top of that. It just depends on the activity level and the temperature level. If I've got to hike 3 miles to get to my glassing point, I will leave the truck sometimes, even when it's pretty chilly, with just my merino top. That's the only thing I'm wearing on the top. And when I get up there, yeah, I'm lathered up and I'm sweating, but that gets off me quickly. And then I put that loft layer on. And my outer layer is just about always the wind stopper that comes with the Jetstream.
Yeah.
I've been wearing that uniform now for, whenever you guys came out with it. And I've got some of it that has hundreds of days of use on it that looks exactly like the day I took it out of the wrapper.
Yeah. I mean, to talk specifics, if you want to talk a little more specifically, for late season, my go-to is the mountain jacket and pant. That's what I like. That's been my go-to. I still have my first pair of original ones that I've had, but you can put knee pads in, you can take them out, but it's a windstopper jacket. It's a really nice pair of pants. So that's kind of what I go to. I'm really digging the Kelvin Active jacket this year. That has replaced all fleece and heavyweight synthetic that, I'll ever wear again. And then I, go to a lofted jacket, Kelvin Light, or, the Kelvin Down hoodie or something like that. For those really, if you're sitting and glassing and just spending a lot of time in a stationary position, that big puffy jacket we make, that Kelvin hoodie is just, you can't beat it.
Right.
You can't beat it.
So you guys, I get this question a lot. Every Wednesday we do a live question and answer session called Elk Talk Live. And the number of people who ask me, are you sure you should be starting a fire when you're up there elk hunting? They're concerned it's going to scare the elk away. To your point, if I'm up there glassing and I know I'm going to be there and it's in Wyoming at 9,000 feet in November and the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour, I start a fire every time. I have no problem starting a little fire to stay warm so that I can focus and concentrate on glassing all day long. Any of you start a fire when you're out there? A lot of people nodding their head, raising their hands.
Sometimes a fire is almost more psychological.
It is. It gives your mind something to do.
Yeah, I typically don't do that. I don't have any problem with it, but my problem is that when I start a fire, I go like this.
Yeah, right. TV's on. Yeah.
I'm hypnotized and I won't see anything.
Yeah. Well, another thing is you can get your boots too close to a fire.
You certainly can, yeah.
You have repaired a pair of mine where you want to know how quickly your boot goes from being just right to too hot? Really fast.
Yeah.
And it's too late.
The problem is you don't feel it inside, right? Because it's radiation heat, and so it just cuts across there. Cole Kramer told me a story one time. He was on Kodiak Island and way back in, I think it was a bear hunt in the spring, and he says he's sitting there by the fire and he's just laid back and he doesn't even think about his boots are there, and all of a sudden he hears this boing, and it's his outsole just flopped right off of the boot. And he says he knew he was going to burn his hand and everything, but he's like 12-mile walk, He's like, this is not going to end well, so he just grabbed it and sandwiched it back on there and held it, even though it was burning his hand until the thing re-adhered.
Wow.
Not good.
Moral of the story, if you're going to build a fire, like I just said, don't put your boots too close to the fire. All right, audience questions. We had a whole bunch of them for a while. The guy there. Oh, that's also on the... did you do that? Did you? Oh, that was one of our online questions, too. Opinion on llama packing. You guys ever used them?
No, I haven't.
No.
I've never used them, but on Monday I'm using them. We have 6 of them that were taken into our hunt because Michael has more camera gear. He looks like he's running away from home with all the camera gear we're hauling in there. But we're going to use them twice this year because there's a guy, Bo Beatty, lives in Idaho Falls. He rents llamas. And we're going to do a podcast with him because there's some really cool information about llamas that I never knew until I met him a couple of years ago. And he's been kind of harassing me, if you want to call it that. Randy, I want to come and show you how llamas are going to change your elk hunting. They're low maintenance. They can haul each of his llamas. They're a different breed of llama. They're called packing llamas. They can carry 80 pounds apiece. What they need for water is almost nothing. He gave me all these reasons. I'm like, all right. Well, when he found out that we drew Wyoming elk tags this year, he said, I'm coming with, whether you like it or not. And I'm looking at where we got to go to get to our spot. I'm like, this is the hunt I want you to come on, Bo. Thanks for being there. So I don't have an opinion yet, but if you ask me that question 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have an opinion. And then
Is this Bo guy from
Idaho Falls. Yeah, I think it's called Wilderness Llama Packs or something Wilderness.
That'll probably be a podcast, huh, when you get back from there?
Yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah.
And he's got so much insight about the history of how llamas came to the United States. And most of the pack llamas are now in the United States. Most of the llamas in their indigenous grounds, their endemic areas of South America, got bred more for wool and food. And the stout, heavier ones got shipped up to North America to be used in the old mining operations and sheep camp, the domestic sheep operations. So there are more pack llamas in the United States than there is in their home countries of the South America. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it sounds...
When he told me that we could haul in 480 pounds of gear,
Wow.
I said, I don't think I own 480 pounds of gear. And
Michael does.
unless Michael and Marcus might be bringing a keg of beer. I don't know. But
although I just did talk to a gentleman, no names, but who just had a llama fall off a cliff on the way out and almost pulled his cameraman off with him and
really
watched that thing plummet to its death.
Oh man, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, hopefully we don't have a story like that to tell. Cool. We just crossed off one of the online questions too. All right, who's next? What is the most underrated piece of gear in my pack? Who wants to go first?
I have to think about it.
Jim?
No.
Jim doesn't want to go first. I have to think about it too. What would be the most underrated piece of gear in my pack? I do these bag dumps. What's that? There you go, baby wipes. I'm with you. Probably baby wipes. Yeah. But other than that, boy, I don't know. I've over years of hunting, you kind of refine your gear set down to such a fine-tuned thing that you wouldn't leave home without any of it.
I'll tell you what, though, if you forget a spoon,
yeah,
right?
Yep.
It's so easy to overlook sometimes. I have whittled more spoons in my life because you forget it. I tend to bring a small, I always bring an inflatable pad to sleep on a backpack hunt. But I always carry a small, piece of foam pad like a Z-Rest or something. I cut 4 cells and I use it to stand on. If my feet are getting cold, I definitely use it to sit on because I'm afraid the insulated or the inflatable pad's going to get a hole in it. I want
okay. Yeah.
And so that's a piece that just kind of goes with me. I mean, all these kind of hunts, and it's really, you can splint somebody's arm if, somebody breaks an arm. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with it. So I bring that. I guess that's pretty underrated. I don't think too much about it, but it always tends to go with me.
I would say that the thing that probably has come in the handiest at times is I carry an extra headlamp. And a lot of time, I've been digging through my pack before cleaning stuff out, and I'll have found a third headlamp. Because it's, I don't know where I pick up all these hunting partners that forget their headlamp. Well, I was down looking for the kids' stuff down in the crawl space the other day, and I left my headlamp down there, and I didn't think to put it back in my pack, or whatever it might be. And for our filming, a lot of times we recover an animal in the dark. Can never have too much light to get good footage. And a lot of times I'll bring extra AAA batteries. Lamp goes out. Dig out my AAA batteries, and they're corroded. Like, wonder where the last time was I bought these, So I always have a spare headlamp, and that's probably the one that has really come in handy a lot.
I still got nothing.
No, Jim's still got nothing. Jim is an equal opportunity guy. They're all equally as good.
How about the extra blunt for your arrow for that last grouse?
You go.
No,
to get your bag limit. What do you roll with a dozen?
No, I just start using broadheads. If I lose a judo point, man, I don't care if I ruin an arrow.
You ruin the grouse.
No, you don't. Broadheads, right through there. A judo tears the meat on the way through. Not a broadhead, man.
You are an expert. I will believe you.
Yeah, It's some guy said this on my Instagram page today when I posted a picture of the grouse I shot this morning. Someone asked, "Do you use broadheads?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'll waste a broadhead on a grouse." He had a good point. He said it's only wasted if you miss him.
Yeah, maybe a big blue, but not a.
Oh no, those big blues, I don't shoot those things. I'm kind of a grouse snob.
Oh,
I'm looking for rough grouse if I can, or female blues. Those big blues, when you peel the feathers back and the meat looks like one of those plums at the grocery store, that's going to be a kind of ugly, nasty, tough old bird. So, So here's the other thing we're doing. I've filmed this, but I don't dare put it on YouTube. I shoot grouse with a shotgun out of trees, on the road, on the trail, on stumps. And so I've went out and filmed me, and a lot of these, Michael's laughing because I filmed them myself. I'm holding the camera out here, and I got my 12 gauge, and I pole axe them. And I walk up there, and I'm like, now this is how you kill grouse. I got my $100 shotgun. This is how you do it. And I want to make fun of these guys with their $5,000 dogs and their $8,000 shotguns. You know, they flush them. They talk about how many rises or how many flushes they had that day. Bull crap. I'm about how many did we put in the pot that day? So I know
How
we
many
got
rises? 0.
Yeah, 0.
None.
I never
None of
missed.
them got off the ground. I mean, to me, if you let a grouse get off the ground, that's a
You've
demerits.
lost.
You should have to go back to camp if you let a grouse get off the ground. And I got guys who won't shoot them out of trees. Oh, you know how easy it is to shoot one with a 20 gauge out of a tree? You lift them right up off the limb, and if the shot didn't kill them, the impact when they hit the ground kills them. So, anyhow, that's a tangent. I'm sorry. Someone else had a question, and I'm over here telling grouse solution stories. Okay, I'm getting called out for BSing here. In the past, I made up stories about how you avoid grizzly bears by knowing where they're going to be and then don't go there. Really, I didn't. That's not BS. I do strongly feel that way. Like there's places I elk hunt where I know in the middle of the day there's probably a greater likelihood of a grizzly bear being in that north-facing berry patch than there is in some of the other kind of scree rocky places. I know that right now, if I go to the head of Watkins Creek south of Hebgen Lake, I'm going to see up in the high alpine, I'm going to see way more grizzly bears up there. And a lot of it is there's the cut-wing moths. You can go to some of those basins at certain times of year, and you can count 6, 8 grizzly bears from one spot. So you kind of know what their habits are and what they're going to be doing at certain times of year. And when I know what they're going to be doing, because they're doing something different in September than they are in October also. So I just try to avoid those places. I can't say it's foolproof. Twice I've had bear encounters that, thankfully the bear wanted no part of me. You know, the old Pigpen stinking kind of thing. I think he smelled me and said, I'm getting out of here. But it scared the crap out of me. And so I just try to understand what is the food source, what are the habits of the bears this time of year, and I try to avoid those kind of places. And really, when I say that, I didn't make that up. I've talked to a lot of bear biologists. In fact, I've tried to have one of them on the podcast. I think he feels I'm trying to set him up because of the whole grizzly bear delisting thing going on right now. He's been very involved in that. He's like, well, can't we wait till all these lawsuits are over? I'm like, no, you got good information. Hunters want to know this stuff. But so he's been my biggest resource about where to not go. Any of you who hunt in certain places, I'll say it, Taylor's Fork, Sage Creek, you know what they do with those problem bears down in the park, down in Yellowstone Park when they capture them? They take them to places with suitable habitat and low likelihood of human encounter. Those are the places we spend a lot of time elk hunting. So be thinking about where you go and do your elk hunting, because there could be an artificially higher density of problem grizzly bears there than you wanted. So that's confirmation there. This person lives in Big Sky, and the problem bears in Big Sky get taken down to Taylor's Fork. A lot of people listening to this podcast probably don't know where Taylor's Fork is, but if you read about the Montana grizzly bear maulings, most of them are in Taylor's Fork or Tom Minor Basin. Mm-hmm. And people still elk hunt there. I don't elk hunt those two places. The old avoid where they're at. They've trapped 5 grizzly bears out of Taylor's Fork. I think it was in July and August. The densities are ridiculous. So if you got good life insurance and you really, you feel like you want to make a donation to the grizzly bear food chain, go hunt those places, but I'm not doing it. So the question is, later in the season when the big herd bulls have their herds of cows and they are more likely to move off than come into your calling, what tactics have we seen that worked? That's the question. you're going to have to ask these guys because all I shoot is raghorns. And there are no raghorns that are herd bulls that I know of. So, you guys got any?
Yeah, I mean, my suggestion is you get close. You do not bugle for certain, right? And just try to slide in again. Use the patience thing to your advantage. Keep the wind, and then you just have to get close, and you have to get really, really lucky. And then usually what happens for me is that there's also raghorns that are cruising right around there, and I shoot them.
John, you got an answer to that?
Yeah, I'd say don't call. I mean, I try to do the old. almost try to hunt him like a mule deer. I mean, I just try to slip in and hopefully he works a cow by or. I mean, why you're not? I just don't see why calling would work that time of year. I think it's more harmful than anything else. So, I just put it away. I just don't need it. Right? I probably need every advantage I can get, but I don't think that's one of them.
Guys who I know who shoot a lot of elk in that period, they do a lot of calling, but they're usually not shooting the big herd bulls. The guys I know who maybe don't shoot as many elk, but they shoot big bulls, do what they were talking about. Once they hear that bull and his cows, they just get as close as they can and they wait until that chance comes. And I ask a lot of them, I'm like, why don't you call? Well, why do I want him to know I'm there?
Yeah.
So,
but I think it depends. If you're going after the herd bull, that's kind of one type of tactic. And if I mean, hell, some of these herd bulls may have 320 satellites. I'm good with that too, right? But
yeah.
In which case, you could probably call one of them out. So it just really depends what you're trying to look for.
Who else we got? What's the worst or sketchiest situation I've ever been in hunting? I can't even imagine what stories these two have. I was not hunting when I ended up in a Mexican jail. That would be the sketchiest, but that was just due to debauchery that comes with being a college student. So, but what's the sketchiest, worst situation you've ever been in, Jim? You've been on a lot of cool hunts, so you probably have all kinds.
I have, yeah. Let's see. The worst, most recent was in British Columbia, northern British Columbia, on a stone sheep hunt, archery, right? And I actually got bucked off my horse and drugged by the stirrup for about 150 yards. That was a pretty, when you rate them all, that's a pretty highlight there. I mean, and so I had a backpack on and my bow attached to the backpack, right? And that's actually what spooked the horse because we came to, you're not even on trails, when you're riding, and we came to this like a little cut stream, and he jumped about 20 feet. And of course it threw me back, and then my bow came around and I had my veins up, and they're big white veins. And I'm sure it looked like an albatross coming at his face, and so he was off to the races, and I made it almost 8 seconds, and, and something happened on this left foot, came out of the stirrup, and the right one did not, and so down I went, and man, oh man, I was just like right through the brush, and it was just like this.
Wow.
Just going, I thought, this is how I'm going out. This is weird. And luckily my foot came out, and the wrangler came back over, my guide, he's like, what the heck happened? I'm like, I don't know, I'm doing the wiggle this foot, wiggle that foot, start flexing bones, make sure nothing's broken. And we got up, and he says, well, I mean, because we're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're riding, it was like one of those hunts where you get dropped off, and we rode 250 miles and came out a different place and just through the wilderness. And anyway, he says, we're a long ways from our camp, and the other horses, he says, well, we got some choices. He says, you can walk, you can get back on the horse, or you can ask for a new horse. And I said, I'd like a new horse, please. That was it. So that's
wow. You're lucky you didn't get seriously injured.
Yeah, I was.
Holy smokes. John, I can't even imagine what yours would be living on Kodiak.
All mine are really relating around late season mountain goat hunting.
Okay.
I was talking about this on another podcast, but as an Alaska resident, you get the opportunity to archery hunt starting November 1st, I think it is, for mountain goats. So if you don't draw a tag, you can go out. Well, as you can imagine, in Alaska, come November, the weather's getting pretty sporty. Snow, et cetera. Days are short. It gets cold, et cetera. A lot of wind, and so my lovely wife has had to endure, me coming home with no arrows in my quiver because I took a 200-foot slide down a mountain and broke everything, in my quiver, and but one of the opportunity, shooting a mountain goat, starting an avalanche, the whole thing, like it's just, It goes on from there. But one, I'm not a small person, I'm 225 pounds soaking wet. And so my buddy and I are on the leeward side of a ridge, maybe 10, 15, 20 feet down on the less windy side of this ridge. And we're trying to traverse over to get to a bowl where we've seen some mountain goats. And I've got a backpack on, my bow, so let's just say 300 pounds, just with all my stuff. And it's just raging wind on the one side, and we've come to find that when it's really windy, it can concentrate the goats. So you think there's no way I could possibly shoot an arrow when it's super windy like this, but a lot of times the goats don't want to be in the wind. They'll be in the leeward side, so it kind of concentrates them to they're probably on this side of the mountain. And a lot of times you can also get a shot because it's less windy. So anyways, this whole thing's running through our head. We're hiking, I'm behind this guy, and all of a sudden, literally didn't hear anything, didn't sense anything. I was just literally flying through the air like this, straight out like Superman, flying like this right at my buddy. And the wind, I don't know, had come down over the top of the ridge and it swirled, and it was like God had picked me up by the seat of the pants and literally just threw me. Wow. And so I'm flying, and I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't even have time to say anything. I smash into the back of him and his backpack and his bow and all his arrows, and we start tumbling down this scree slope in this giant mess with broadhead tipped arrows flying everywhere and broken quivers, and just trying not, ice axes in our hands, trying not to stab each other. And of course, as you can imagine, by the time we get to the bottom, he's ready to fight me. He's ready to fight me. I'm ready to run home and you're right, and go get a drink. And he's like, what the hell, And I was like, I swear to God, I don't know what happened, man. Literally the wind picked me up and threw me. And we unsort all that. We climb back towards the top. I'm behind him again, and we start hiking. And literally the wind picks him up and just slaps him to the ground. And he thought I did it, right? He thought I went up behind him and just pushed him to the ground. I said, I had nothing to do with it. We're getting the hell out of here. And so whatever kind of weird wind was coming over the top and spinning, it was weird. It was supernatural because you couldn't see it. You didn't know when it was coming, and so you couldn't prepare for it. And we're like, no mountain goat's worth this. Yeah. Not at all. So.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't pushed any of my buddies down a scree slope or anything like that. Probably my sketchiest thing is a lot of people who watch our show, listen to our podcast, know that I've got a weird liver condition. And we did a Nevada mule deer hunt. Actually, 2 Sitka guys were with us, Brinker and Sposito. And I got extremely dehydrated. I was already having liver problems when we hiked in there. It was about a 5-hour hike carrying heavy loads in 90-degree temperatures. And my liver crashed on me. And I thought, wow. Is it? I'm kind of like you were saying, what a way to go. Mm-hmm. I laid in a tent for 4 days with the camera crew trying to talk me into letting them call a medevac to airlift me out of there. But fortunately, I just drank enough water, took enough meds that I got through it. But I usually can hide it pretty well. I try not to let people get too stressed out. But if you ever go and watch that episode, you're going to be like, holy crap, Newberg, what? They just take you off your heroin or what's the deal there, man? You're having some serious DTs or something, man. That was pretty sketchy. I didn't want to let on how sketchy it was at the time, but it wasn't one I want to replicate again anytime soon. So, but
How we doing, Wyatt? We're doing good?
Yeah, probably wrapping up here pretty soon.
Pretty soon? Oh, we're just about out of beer, huh? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Anyone else got any questions? Or are y'all waiting for the drawings that are going to happen here?
Yeah.
Oh, we got one here. What is my favorite hunt of all time? Whoo. Man. You guys want to take that one?
Yeah, I can take that one. I get asked that a lot. I have over the years, and my answer is always consistent. The next one.
Yeah. You have an answer different than that, John?
Yeah, I do. But, to Jim's point, I mean, I'm always the most excited about whatever the next hunt is. But I won't cop out. Not that Jim did, but I won't cop out. But I will tell you, for me, and I mean, there's nothing like hunting bugle and bulls, and there's nothing like hunting velvet muleys and, mountain goats. But when I was 65 yards away from my bedded brown bear, and I was committed to killing him, I distinctly remember, because black bears, right, they should get their due. But I distinctly remember making the decision, I'm going to go kill that bear. Or, try. But you have to commit. I'm going to go kill that bear. And I remember, once I committed, the next thought that ran through my head was, something's going to die at the end of this stalk.
It could be
and
you.
It's either going to be the bear or it's going to be me.
Oh, my God.
And that was a really interesting thought to be running through my head as I go approach this animal. And I've never had that thought again, but it was very, it didn't excite me. What it did was it was very sobering and it calmed me down. But that moment, I can still, I'm there right now, I'm getting, the shakes. It was a moment of clarity, and it's I'm committing, and something's going to die at the end of this stalk. And it was crazy, but that's the thought that ran through my head. And so that definitely stands out as an interesting, unique memory. Yeah.
I bet it would.
You've hunted brown bear, right?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
I have, but with a rifle.
It's awesome, but
Huh.
and then once it's dead, you look at it and you go, "What the hell was I thinking?"
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. For me, boy, I'm with Jim. I'm excited about the next hunt. Like last night, I was tossing and turning, knowing that this morning I was going elk hunting, and it is the next hunt that always has me the most excited. But if you've really pushed me and said, all right, Randy, what species or what weapon or what place? If you tell me it's with a rifle, my favorite thing is going to be pronghorn. I have a problem with pronghorn that I will never solve. It's some sort of crazy addiction, and I love it. I love eating them. I love everything about them. If it's with a bow, is probably going to be elk. I just think about this morning, hearing that bull all mad, coming through the brush, and he's letting the world know that, you know what, I'm the baddest guy around here. And I don't know how you replicate that. When that bugle happens and your whole body is vibrating, video and TV does not do that justice. You gotta be there. Yeah, it is like, this thing could kill me. If he realized he could kill me, I think he would come and kill me right now. And so that's probably what's the most fun for me. That's a good one to end it on. All right. So with that, folks listening on the podcast, hopefully they got something out of this. All of you who showed up here tonight, thanks a ton. For Kenetrek, Jim, thanks for hosting us.
You're welcome.
John, thanks for being on here again.
Pleasure as always. Always fun.
It always is. And for all of you listening, thanks a ton. The next one we're gonna do, I think, is going to be about llama hunting. Not llama hunting with llama hunting. Hey, but remember, I don't know how many of you have lived here long enough to remember the article in the Great Falls Tribune when the airman at Maelstrom went and shot the llama. He went so far as to gut and gill it and bring it through the check station. So there has been llama hunting in Montana, not legally, but let me restate that. The next podcast, I think, if we have time, we can keep Bo for an extra couple hours. We're going to talk about a Wyoming elk hunt and having a hunt where we finally got to use llamas. So anyhow, folks, thanks for listening. Everyone, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.